We are in 1976 when Ferrari with
Hello everyone, welcome to Imola for round 7 of the Ferrari Challenge for 2024. Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM cars ready to take to the track for 30-minute plus 1 lap race. This is what Imola looks like in the sunshine. Regret, we do not have that today. To be fair, it's been dry all day long. However, now it's not. We've been to Mugello, to Balaton, to Jerez, to Portimao, to La Castellet, to the Nürburgring. Here we are at Imola as part of the Finale Mondiale event. And we're delighted to be here, even if the weather gods are not playing to our hands. 4.9 kilometers, the Imola track, 21 turns, 12 left, 9 right. It's an anti-clockwise direction around this track that winds its way around the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. And it's a real test for our drivers. The start-finish straight, which really isn't straight, and the raindrops continuing to come down. Track temperature 20 degrees, air temperature 19. And there's about 9 kilometers per hour of wind at the moment. That's what we have. And we will see how the drivers are able to cope with the really rather nasty conditions that we have at the moment. So we have a mix of Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers on the track. The Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen. The Pirelli AM drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. Now, the Pirelli Championship has been won by Giacomo Altoe, who incidentally will be going from pole position. The Pirelli AM Championship has not been won yet. And the Pirelli AM Championship is being contested between Klaus Sebranson and Hendrik Viol. Interestingly, Hendrik Viol starts from pole position. Klaus Sebranson didn't have such a good qualifying. He goes from P4. However, I think it's fair to say that Klaus Sebranson has got certainly the advantage at the moment. However, nothing is done until it is done. And we know that in the Ferrari Challenge. When last we were racing, it was in Germany at the famed Nürburgring circuit. Let's take a look at what happened there. So as the cars were released down towards turn number 1, Luca Ludwig with a brilliant start. Andrew Morrow really chasing. Klaus Sebranson moving up the order. And Luca Ludwig then driving the number 8 car was victorious in race 1. When it came to race 2, Luca Ludwig again, his dominance, well, right at the start, but then it went horribly wrong for him. And Giacomo Altoe was able to get through, and he would secure another victory to what has been a remarkable tally for him this season. So that's the way it looked then for our Pirelli drivers. In the Drivers' Championship, as you can see, Giacomo Altoe comes here with a clear 39 points ahead of Bens Valent. And Philip Barron is merely 1 point behind. So second place in the championship, very much up for grabs. Now in the AM Drivers' Championship, you can see that Klaus Sebranson got 26 points ahead of Hendrik Viol. So the long and the short of it is Hendrik would have to win both the races, and for Klaus to really fall over, for Hendrik to have any chance to steal the championship away from Klaus Sebranson. But as we say, nothing is done until the checkered flags have fallen. Though I think it's fair to say Nico Spalak alongside me, Klaus Sebranson is in the hot seat.
Of course, yes, indeed. Obviously, the weather conditions being very tricky, somewhat unpredictable, and the fact that Klaus Sebranson is starting from P9 overall. If you have to look for a silver lining for the man whose car is coming into shot there, right-hand side, that day-glow yellow and purple car, Hendrik Viol. If you look for a single silver lining for him, aside from his pole position in class, is that things can go wrong very quickly in these conditions. So you never know.
You're absolutely right. They can. And yeah, you can just see now coming into shot, the green and black car is the car of the championship leader, and that is Klaus Sebranson. As you can see, he is starting further down the order. He's alongside the Trofeo Pirelli driver there, Max Mugelli, driver of the number 3 car. So as we walk down the grid then, the conditions are pretty horrible, although at least it is wet, and the race control have decided that in order to get the start as effective as possible. They're going to start behind the safety car, which I think is probably quite a wise decision in these conditions.
Yeah, there has been some track activity over the last few minutes, but not anything like a full grid of cars dissipating the rain that creates the standing water on the track. So certainly the rationale here is that behind the safety car, the cars will be able to get rid of some of the water on the track, and obviously the drivers will get a better feel of the track conditions, and that will allow the race control to really make an informed decision maybe a few minutes later.
Yeah, generally speaking, when we have a start behind the safety car, first lap at a certain pace, then the second lap is increased behind the safety car, and often the safety car comes in after 2 laps, but it's race control's decision as to when that actually happens. Andreas Berg Sorensen to the left-hand side of the grid that we look at right now, the Formula Racing driver. And we have, it's a big grid of cars, 25 of them out there on track, and yeah, with conditions less than favorable, it has to be said. I have to say, in fairness, when you and I looked at the weather conditions for the day ahead, it was improving hour by hour this morning, wasn't it, in terms of the forecast, but the rain has definitely come down now, and yes, that means it's challenging for our drivers, including Giacomo Altoe here, going from P1 position. He has had a very, very successful season, winning the championship and having missed the entire first round, the Emil Frey racing driver. 3 minutes then away from the race getting underway here at Imola. Ferrari Challenge, Finale Mondiale then. Of course, the final race is for the Ferrari Challenge competitors, but so much more in the Finale Mondiale because we have lots of other activities from the Corsa Clienti programs that take to the track as well. It's an extraordinary exhibition of cars, and the whole paddock is really like a mini Maranello almost in terms of Ferrari activity, so it is an extraordinary place to be. The Finale Mondiale events just get bigger and better and bigger and better year on year on year. Amazing stuff. And of course the Challenge Racing all season long has been very good as well, with big grids of the 296 cars, which every driver has taken to with real enthusiasm. It has proven to be a fantastic racing car, and it is the Ferrari Challenge car, and the Challenge of course races not only here in Europe but also in the UK and Japan and North America. So there we can see the wipers going on just about every car. So as I mentioned then, Finale Mondiale, about so much more than just the racing and displays out on track. There are lots of other displays as well, and very much to entertain everyone in the paddock here at Imola. This is the Finale Mondiale from Ferrari.
During this season, we have celebrated the incredible success for the second year of the prancing horse at the 24 Hour of Le Mans. Here at the exhibition area in the paddock of Imola, I want to discover with you more about the history of Ferrari in the world of the endurance races. We are in 1976 when Ferrari with the 330 P4 and a memorable hat-trick won the 24 Hours of Daytona with the arrival in the parade. Aesthetically very similar to the 330 P3, it was fifth with a V12 trolley revised by Franco Rocchi. The most obvious innovation was represented by the 3 valves for cylinder, for intake and 1 for exhaust. Power was provided by the Lucas injection system, still remembered today as a special and icon in the racing world. Still remaining in the world of endurance, another car that has made Ferrari history is the 250 GT Open, entrusted to gentleman driver. Designed for racing in the Gran Turismo category, it remained in production from 1956 to 1959. Furthermore, all the examples built were made with left-hand drive.
Thank you, Ludovica, just giving us a little taste of the exhibition that's here at Ferrari Finale Mondiale. Well, as the cars are behind the safety car, and that's the way the race is starting, the race has commenced. Quite clearly, no overtaking behind the safety car, but as you can see, the clock is ticking down. Here is the grid then. Armin Arifpour going from P25. He is a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, as are Marco Zanazzi and David Acabazzi ahead of him on the 12th row of the grid. To the 11th row of the grid, we find Gianmarco Marzioletti and David Gosner. And going from P20 and 19, respectively, Andreas Berg Sorensen and Otto Blank. Then it's Kim Eriksson and Angelo Fontana, two Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, with Herbert Geis and Hanno Laskowski just ahead, going from P16 and 15. It's Andrew Morrow and James Owen going from the 7th row of the grid, and ahead of them are David Kayaya and Axel Zartinger. Trofeo Pirelli driver Max Mugelli has Klaus Sabranson for company on row 5, and then it's Luigi Coluccio and Danilo Del Favero who are sharing the 4th row of the grid. Michael Verhagen and Hendrik Viol, well, they are on the 3rd row of the grid, with Philip Barron and Bens Valin going from row 2, and of course on row 1, as it was on many occasions this year, it's Luca Ludwig and Giacomo Altoe that occupy the front row of the pack. So Giacomo Altoe has done it all over again in terms of his qualifying performance and put the car on pole position. Well done to the Emil Frey Racing driver. Let's hear from him now.
I mean, I'm super happy here in my home track in Imola, pole position for the first quali. So yeah, super happy. The track conditions were not easy because we were out on wet tires, but it was, at the beginning it was wet, but then it was drying up, so really not easy to manage to put a lap together. And I was also without radio, so I had to manage myself with the traffic and so on. So it was not an easy session, but yeah, it's great to start in P1 for race 1.
Well done, Giacomo Altoe. Without radio and with challenging conditions, he still nailed that pole position and, of course, picked up yet another Rotiform pole position award, which will take loving pride on his mantelpiece, I suggest. So, number of laps behind the safety car, I would think, to A, dissipate some of the water, and B, let the drivers get used to the very challenging conditions that greet us here at Imola. Then you can see the spray. Grip is not so much the issue sometimes as the visibility, which is really compromised. Particularly, Nico, when you've got 25 cars out on track. Unless you're the pole sitter, Giacomo Altoe, it's like driving into fog.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, it's slowly getting dark here at almost 5:30 local time. All things compounding and confounding things for our drivers here in Pirelli, but that's why they're here. That's what they all trained for. That's what they all prepared for. They would have preferred better weather, but you know, you have to take it as it comes.
Absolutely, and Pirelli provide a very good wet weather tyre, that's for sure, which I haven't got the figures, but it dissipates some huge amount of water per second. The grooved and blocked tyres that are the wet weather tyres that Pirelli adorn the Ferrari Challenge cars, but even so, even dissipating all that water when the rain continues to come down, only race control will decide how long the safety car will stay out there, and already the first 4 minutes of the race are done and dusted, with Giacomo Altoe leading for the Pirelli cars and Hendrik Viol for Scuderia Prague Racing leading for the Pirelli AM drivers. So, generally speaking, the safety car increases in speed a little by every lap. Again, just to bring drivers into the groove, if you'll forgive the pun, of getting them used to these really rather torrid conditions here. And with another race to be run tomorrow, of course, and then the all-important World Final qualifying to come on Saturday, and the World Final races, which are non-championship races, to be held on Sunday. There's still a lot of racing activity that will take place here at the 4.9 kilometer circuit of Imola as we look at Bens Valin, then talented, young, a driver from Ferrari Budapest and Rosso Corsa. Another talented young driver is Giacomo Altoe. So many talents now choosing, and young talents at that, choosing the Ferrari Challenge as a real stepping stone for a great career in motor racing. It's really happened over the last few years, where the drivers realize the benefit that they can have from being on the bill with such a brilliant brand and so many really influential teams and personnel that can take note of the talent that is out there on track, Nico. And there are so many stories to be told about drivers that have really succeeded and having been in the Ferrari Challenge, and Nicholas Nielsen obviously is one of those, 24-hour Le Mans winner as part of that team this year, and yeah, lots of others that have in all sorts of categories have earned their success spurs, if you will, from coming from the Ferrari Challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, Thomas Neubauer, another one who is here and who has gone through the rigors and the challenge of this series and has moved on and has become an official Ferrari factory driver. And I think this, seeing that this is a possibility, if you're talented, you will be seen and you will be recognized. That really is something that has brought more interest and more drivers into this series. Well, we're still under the safety car, no indication yet, and dare I say it doesn't really look like the conditions are such that it looks obvious that we can go racing very soon, but race control is monitoring the situation, is getting feedback obviously from the safety car and from other sources around the track. So we hope that very, very soon we can go racing. Weather forecast unfortunately says it's going to rain at least until 6 p.m. so that would be effectively the end of the race time. So yeah.
We were talking there about young drivers, as we know that the safety car is going to come in at the conclusion of this lap. I want to give a mention out actually to Alex Palou, who of course you know you can be a talented young driver and not be picked up by Ferrari for a factory drive and still be hugely successful, and Alex Palou is one of those that I just wanted to mention there. Right, so safety car coming in at the conclusion of this lap, and we will go racing. And yeah, the conditions are going to be hard for these drivers, but they know how to race in the wet. They're given the equipment to so do, but there is no doubt about it, probably they'd prefer some sunshine, but that's not what we've got. We've got to make do with what we've got. It is now, when the safety car comes in, it will be the responsibility of Giacomo Altoe. He will lead the charge, if you will, and Luca Ludwig and Ben Svalint are going to have to try and ascertain and anticipate when Giacomo Altoe will give it 100% on the accelerator pedal. Once he's accelerated, he has to stay accelerated. And right now, having gone through the Rivazza turns, he's stacking them all up, Nico. And now he goes.
Absolutely, yeah, he goes, and Luca Ludwig anticipated it reasonably, but behind those two, a little bit of a gap forms, which under these visibility conditions, a little bit of a gap in front of you at the very start maybe isn't such a bad thing.
Okay, so into turn number one, where visibility is really going to be so compromised for every driver other than the pole sitter. And fingers crossed that all the drivers make their way through the Variante Tamburello well, and I think they have done so. So Giacomo Altoe from Luca Ludwig, then it's Ben Svalint and Philip Barron, and you can see the top two beginning to break away from Ben Svalint. That is Giacomo Altoe and Luca Ludwig. For the AM drivers, Hendrik Viol, Mick Verhagen and Danilo Del Fabro, the top three. I remind you, the Pirelli drivers have the red strip across the top of the windscreen. Our Pirelli AM drivers have a white strip across the top of the windscreen. So first lap without the safety car leading them away. And making their way around this 4.9 kilometer circuit with 21 turns. So rather think that Luca Ludwig is playing safety here and just keeping sufficiently behind Giacomo Altoe so that he can see where he's going. So Altoe then in these 296 Challenge cars, which are revered by all the drivers. When the Ferrari Challenge 296 car was introduced at the beginning of this year, you could see the smiles beaming from ear to ear on the faces of every driver who love this latest evolution of Ferrari Challenge car. Absolutely awesome machine, no question about it, with so many innovations. This is Philip Barron, one of the, dare I say it, successful campaigners in the Ferrari Challenge for a number of years, and the number 91 driver, very much a team manager, as Luca Ludwig now really taking it to Giacomo Altoe and sensing his opportunity, perhaps going into the Variante Tamburello, that Luca Ludwig is going to have a go here. Giacomo Altoe, of course, has won the championship in Trofeo Pirelli already. Doesn't need to do any heroics, but he is a young racing driver. He wants to win absolutely every single race that he enters. Luca Ludwig is of equal determination and sets the fastest lap. So Giacomo is not going to be given an easy ride here.
No, for sure not. And Luca Ludwig, who is very proficient with Ferrari on the Nordschleife, he knows all about up
rain.
and down. He certainly knows everything about rain and all other sorts of inclement weather. But as you can see, he can't run behind Giacomo Altoe all the time through every single turn with these visibility conditions. It's just seems impossible, even for a proficient race driver like him. So he has to pick his spots, and obviously set up always a compromise. And here in Imola, more than most other places, with the very, very quick parts along the start-finish sequence, rather than straight, as well as these very twisty and tight turns.
You're absolutely right. We run the live speed and gear selection on the top two drivers at the bottom of the screen for you. If the numbers turn red, that's when they're in a braking situation. If the numbers are green, that's when they're accelerating. Great to have all that information sent live into our broadcast for you. And Luca Ludwig is the fastest lap setter for Pirelli drivers. For the Pirelli AM drivers, it is Hendrik Viol who continues to lead in that category, ahead of Michael Verhagen and Danilo Del Favaro. Klaus Sabranson running in P4. Klaus Sabranson in the driving seat with regards to the championship. It is Altoe, Ludwig and Bensverlind, P1, 2 and 3 for Pirelli drivers. For the Pirelli AM drivers, Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen and Danilo Del Favaro are the 1, 2, 3. So the start-finish straight that isn't here at Imola, and then heavy braking as we go into the first chicane, which is turns 2, 3 and 4, the Variante Tamburello. And yeah, Luca Ludwig deciding that discretion the better part of valor on this occasion, and keeping dialed out, if you will, the back end of Giacomo Altoe. Maybe he'll have another go when he feels brave enough, and visibility allows him to do so. But the rain intensity has not really reduced, I would suggest. But nonetheless, you can tell just how quick these two guys are by dint of the fact the Bensverlind car is now a clear 6 seconds behind them. So P1 and P2 really making haste their escape up the road. There is Klaus Sabranson. He's currently running P4 in the Trofeo Pirelli AM race. Ahead of him is Luigi Coluccio, who is a Pirelli driver, but he's some distance ahead of him. And behind Klaus Sabranson is Max Mugelli, who's protecting him a bit from Axel Sardingen. Axel Sardingen, of course, champion from another category last year. Let's ride on board right now with Klaus Sabranson. Now, visibility for Klaus is not so bad, and the reason for that is because he is keeping a reasonable distance between himself and Luigi Coluccio ahead. The minute he gets closer, Nico, so that visibility reduces, and you know, he's got to be pinch point perfect if he's going to go for an overtake to know that he can nail it.
Yeah, indeed. For Klaus, it really is the benefit that he really doesn't have to push too much. He's in a decent enough position. Whether it will be enough to clinch the championship today is something we will look at later on. But certainly, whatever happens, if he finishes in P4, even if Hendrik Viol does get the race win in the fastest lap, he will still be in a commanding role and position for tomorrow's finale.
So we can see the car of Andrew Morrow going through there. He's currently running P13 in the race overall, with James Owen behind him. Andrew running P7 in the race, James running P8 in the race in terms of the Pirelli AM classification. Whoa, just a wobbly moment there for Giacomo Altoe as he ran across the curbs. Now, the curbs and the painted curbs offer less grip than the tarmac, and that allowed Luca Ludwig to get a little bit closer to him. The gap between the two of them is around about 7/10. And we have some gravel on track at turn 15, we are being told. That will be because a driver has run wide there and picked up some gravel and then very generously not distributing it across the track. But that will have been warned to all the drivers as well as to us in our message feed, so that all the drivers are kept abreast and informed of everything that's going on out there on track to give them the maximum information. You can see here Luka Ludwig as he power slides the car through that turn. He's still determined to get the better of Giacomo Altoe, who will be equally determined to hold on. And well, completely different lines being taken by both the drivers there, both Luka Ludwig and Giacomo Altoe. Again, Luka just letting the back end of the car drift out a little bit. Now, he's got a good run here. However, going into the Variante Tamburello, you really need to pitch the inside line fairly early on, and I don't think he's close enough to be able to do that. King of the late breakers you've got to be, but you've got to be king of the late breakers when you've got the inside line. And, well, Luka Ludwig on that occasion didn't have that afforded to him. Giacomo Altoe making sure that the door was right royally closed on where Luka Ludwig would like to place and position his number 8 Mertel Motorsport Ferrari Challenge 296 car. So it remains Giacomo Altoe and Luka Ludwig. It remains Hendrik Viol and Michael Verhagen, the top 2 in each of the categories, Pirelli drivers and Pirelli AM drivers in the same race. We've got around about 13.5 minutes plus 1 lap of the race still to come. And I have to say, credit to all the drivers whose discipline in these really rather regrettable conditions has been exemplary. We've only lost 1 driver, and that's Gianmarco Marcialetti, who I'm given to understand had an off on the installation lap in any event. So nothing to do with the race as we ride on board right now with Klaus Sebranson, the live championship. This would give him 156 points if we stayed where we are right now. Hendrik Viol on 137 in P2. In the Drivers' Championship, Hendrik Viol, of course, for Scuderia Prague Racing, is currently leading the Trofeo Pirelli AM race, but leading the championship and going into tomorrow's race in a comfortable position in the championship, if everything stays the way it is right now, would be Klaus Sebranson, Nico.
Yeah, indeed, and 19 points would be insurmountable if it stayed that way. But it's still 12 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, so we will see. Special shout out to Marco Zonazzi, who had an off in qualifying and therefore had to start from the very back of the grid, but has made good progress already up to P12. And especially in these conditions, you really don't not only have to be faster, but you already have to overcome the visibility challenges and get past other cars. So shout out to him for making that happen in the early part of the race.
Hendrik Viol we ride on board with right now. The car ahead of him is a Pirelli car of Luigi Coluccio. So in terms of, I beg your pardon, the car ahead of him is Philip Barron. It's Luigi Coluccio is ahead of the car of Klaus Sebranson. But for Hendrik Viol, with 2 Pirelli cars ahead of him, other than the cushion protecting him potentially from Michael Verhagen, there's little point in running in the spray off the back of Philip Barron, because even if he overtook him, all it does is give him a cushion of a car, I suppose. It you know, it's not going to gain him anymore in terms of his position in the race.
Yeah, and Michael Verhagen is 2.6 seconds behind, plus the spray, so
yeah,
he's got a double cushion somehow. And I think he kind of knows that it's down to what happens with Klaus Sebranson, that if Klaus Sebranson finishes where he is right now, there is very little he can do about that, obviously. So what he needs is something outside of his control, so he will just focus on doing what he can do as Luka Ludwig gets very close here and trying somehow to push Giacomo Altoe into a mistake and almost pushes him literally, and I think now he has pushed him literally.
I tell you what, they are virtually welded together. This is the best opportunity Luka Ludwig has had to try and wrestle away the race lead from Giacomo Altoe. Credit to both of these drivers for giving us an entertaining race to enjoy. Right at the front of the Trofeo Pirelli field, once again, Giacomo Altoe making sure that that inside line is protected from Luka Ludwig. Luca doing everything he can, and you're absolutely right. When he came off the back of the second of the Ravazza turns, I think he was just touching Giacomo Altoe. Once again, he sets another fastest lap, so he means business, Nico. And we've got just under 10 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. Giacomo Altoe, though, is determined to win the race, as any racing driver would be. But Luca Ludwig pushing very, very hard. It is Altoe from Ludwig and Ben Svalint. They are the top 3 Pirelli drivers. The top 3 AM drivers, Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen and Danilo Del Favaro.
Yeah, indeed. And Luca Ludwig, he's really, really pushing. But you've said it many, many times before, being quicker than the car in front of you is one thing, getting by is another. And in these conditions, doubly so. 9 minutes remaining, and those top 2 drivers now have 14.5 seconds over Ben Svalent in P3. Ferrari kind of behind him, always stays within the second of Ben Svalent, but the conditions certainly are not conducive to making him try too many overtaking attempts for the time being. And again, look at it, really, really close at that part of the track.
Ben Svalent has really impressed me this year, Nico, because he's another young driver, and so is Giacomo Altoe and Luca Ludwig, and I rather feared that that might be inevitable at some point, that there would be a touch between the 2 of them. And there was a touch, and now there's a spin as they both pirouette. This will play into the hands of the young driver that I was talking about just a moment ago, Ben Svalint. Potentially, but they get going again. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I'm tempted to say, but I think Luca Ludwig has got damage, whereas Giacomo Altoe is able to keep going here. I think in these conditions, it was always a possibility there would be a touch between the 2 of them. But what that's done is that's put Ben Svalint now up into the P2 position with Philippe Baron P3. And Luca Ludwig, well, you can see him crawling by the line here, Nico. I think there's damage to his car, unfortunately, and that, well, Luca always looked like he was going to have a go. He did, but it didn't pay off.
No, indeed, and that was very unfortunate. And you said there were actually 2 incidents between the 2. First, the push from the rear, and then they collided side by side. In the meantime, Michael Verhagen has taken away the fastest lap in the M's from Hendrik Viol. So somehow good news for this driver who we go on board with, Klaus Sebranson, because it consolidates his lead in the championship even further. And with 7 minutes remaining, I think we're getting to the stage where he really has to fall over for the championship to go into tomorrow. But it's not over until it's over, and as we just saw, things can happen very, very quickly.
Yes, we run the telemetry on the Klaus Sebranson car, 4th gear, 5th gear, right now up to 200 kilometers per hour. Before braking once again for that right-hander. And let's get him replay here. Now, that was the first touch between the 2 of them. Then there was another touch. Then Giacomo Altoe came back on the inside, made a touch on Luca. That sent them both pirouetting around. I have to say, Nico, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Inevitably, the first touch came from Luca Ludwig in the braking zone as they were heading into that turn. And that incident, we're being told by race control, is under investigation. Now, did Giacomo Altoe brake a tad earlier than he'd done on the lap previous? We can't tell that. We don't have that data available to us, but it is possible, and race control will take a look at every single element of that to see if any blame can be apportioned.
Yeah, and Giacomo Altoe has dropped behind Ben Svalent and Philippe Baron, so potentially he also sustained some damage from that incident and slowed down a little bit somehow. Very difficult to see in these conditions, but certainly what we know is Ben Svalent is leading, and there is the trifecta that's leading the race with 5.5 minutes remaining.
So Ben Svalent, our new race leader in Trofeo Pirelli, ahead of Philippe Baron, and Giacomo Altoe now relegated to P3. For our AM drivers, it is Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen, and then it is Danilo Del Favaro. So the top 3 remain the same as that. That looks like the Kim Eriksson car is in the barriers, Nico, with 5 minutes of this race remaining. Now, dependent upon where that is on the track, And yes, it is the number 10 car of Kim Eriksson. And once you're on the grass, you are nothing other than a passenger, particularly in these wet weather conditions. Thankfully, the integral safety of the 296 Challenge car is utterly steadfast, and Kim will be absolutely fine. But we just wait to see what race control will decide to do with 4.5 minutes remaining in this race, and where that Kim Eriksson car is. Safety car has been called for, and that's what I thought would happen. And with just 4.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go, I would say that's pretty much race done and dusted.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there is very, very little hope that, as quick as the recovery teams here at Imola have worked, I just think that 4.5 minutes, yeah, it might be that they just managed to get that one last lap at race speed, although from a safety point of view, that's some consideration that race control will also have. Is it safe? And obviously the best news, not that we doubted it, but the best sign and the best image that we can get is Kim Eriksson being fine and out of the car, so we can focus on the mundane things of getting the race back underway.
Yes, and that's great to see Kim Eriksson walking away from that, just reinforcing what we said about the integral safety of the 296 Challenge car. So this could play into the hands, if I may say, of Giacomo Altoe, who we think may have sustained some damage, and he may have dropped another place or two if the race had continued. But at the moment, he maintains a podium place, doesn't he? He's got a provisional P3 if we don't go back to racing with 3.25 minutes plus 1 lap. I have my doubts. I must say, but we will see. Thankfully, we're in the broadcast booth. We are not in the race control booth. Yeah. There is Klaus Sabranson, who is P4, of course, in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Hendrik Viol leading that Trofeo Pirelli Am race ahead of Michael Verhagen and Danilo Del Fabro. There are the live points for you. 156 points for Klaus Sabranson, 137 for Hendrik Viol, and that is one Mr. Max Blancardi. You can see there, talking to his driver. He acts as a driver coach, and the Scuderia Prague driver that we were on board with momentarily was Hendrik Viol. And we go on to another onboard camera with Klaus Sabranson with the safety car leading the cars around, and 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. Onto the pit wall we go, where of course all the data is available to those drivers on screens, Nico, from the drivers' cars to the teams. The teams can see so much there, including the weather radar. You kind of don't need that at the moment. Guess what? It's raining.
It's pretty much raining. With 2 minutes remaining, that means the cars will finish that lap in roughly a minute or so, and that means if they want to get back to racing, it has to be by the time they hit the second sector line on the next lap. So they would obviously finish the next lap with no time left, but there is that plus 1 lap which has been introduced this year. So we will see if the recovery operations have been quick enough for us to get 1 more lap. There is no shot that we can see of the Kim Eriksson car where it is right now. So we will wait and we will see. Somehow I think if race control felt like we wouldn't be able to get back racing, maybe they would have thrown out the red flag already. That's all speculation. We wait and see, and we watch the remainder of this race, and we do get a time penalty announced. Indeed, for Giacomo Altoe, a 25-second penalty for causing a collision. Doesn't do anything for his championship chase, because that's done and dusted, but apparently it certainly drops him off the podium.
It does. It does. You're absolutely right. So Giacomo Altoe picking up that time penalty for causing a collision. I'm not going to say anything. Yeah.
The consensus in the commentary booth is that we're lucky and happy that we are not having to make those decisions.
You're absolutely right there, because that is a difficult decision to make. And I remind you that race control have so much information available to them that we don't have and that we don't see. So they're able to make an informed decision. You and I, we kind of make a decision which is based on what we can see on the screen. And that isn't always necessarily going to be the right one.
Yeah, and there is another replay.
See here.
This is clear. This is clear cut. That the touch comes from Luka Ludwig. As you already said, where did he break? Unsure. I think
It was this moment, wasn't it?
yeah, for sure. But even there, it's I would consider it arguable whether it was in any way someone was at fault in the first place. But the time has clicked down to quadruple zeros and we're into the final sector. So I rather think we will end this race behind the safety car with no more racing.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be Bens Valent and Philip Barron.
Did you see the t-shirt? I think that is a clear sign that the team is confident, and I think that t-shirt may say Klaus somewhere.
Well, look at the dark clouds overhead. Whoa! Weather conditions are really, really nasty now. So, effectively, what will happen for Trofeo Pirelli, it will be Bens Valent, Philip Barron, and then it will be Luigi Coluccio who will take P3. And that, to my knowledge, will be the first podium for Luigi Coluccio. There you can see the Formula Racing team. Do you know, I would hate to be the person that has to order the T-shirts.
Yeah, you...
Because that's, you know, that's just tempting. Oh,
Fate,
no,
yeah.
I really wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, superstition cannot be part of your DNA if you're pressing that order button, or even if you're designing the logo or whatever you do. What the youth does nowadays, nobody knows. But we're on to the
Well, I
final
certainly
lap.
don't. We are the final lap. So it's going to be Bens Valent, Philip Barron and Luigi Coluccio that will be the top three for Trofeo Pirelli. For Trofeo Pirelli, Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen and Danilo Del Favaro. I'm pretty sure that's going to be Danilo's first podium of the season as well. It is. So well done to Danilo Del Favaro then. He'll be taking a podium out of this. Bens Valent, another really, really strong young driver. And Rosso Corsa Racing there. Of course, Bens Valent driving for Ferrari Budapest. Rosso Corsa Racing going to be on the top step of the podium. And Klaus Sebranson, well, there you can see the team, or the teamers, team, as Klaus Sebranson heads for home. Formula Racing have had another stellar season in Ferrari Challenge, Nico, and they have been responsible for so many talented drivers that have been part of the Ferrari Challenge. And once again this year, they have proved that they know how to engineer a winning Ferrari Challenge car.
Yeah, and they've engineered a winning 488 challenge car with Fabrizio Fontana, and they're winning 296 challenge car, obviously with Klaus Sebranson. And as we saw on the t-shirt, they also won the Copper Team Trophy. So there is also obviously a championship for the best and most winning team, and that also goes the way of Formula Racing. So, well, I think they got it down.
Here's someone that knows all about winning. It was Axel Sardigan, and Klaus Sebranson certainly knows about winning as well. It's been a roller coaster season for Klaus Sebranson. There's been ups, there's been downs. For Bens Valent, the young driver of the number 86 car, by my reckoning, this will be his second win of the season. He took win number 1 in the second race at Mugello when we opened the championship this year, also in Italy, of course, at the Mugello circuit. And the safety car comes into the pit lane, as do all the cars going to be allowed to take the checkered flag. And Bens Valent will at least take the checkered flag and be the race winner. Philip Barron, well, you wouldn't put it past him actually trying to overtake him, but you're just not allowed to do that. But Philip Barron is a born racer, isn't he? And Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen, Danilo Del Favaro, and then Luigi Coluccio with his first podium. And I think the eyes expression of Klaus Sebranson say it all, Nico.
Yeah, I think you'd even hear a little bit of jubilation amongst the sound of the engine and the rain and everything. But yeah, we will surely, when he arrives underneath the podium, we will see some expression of emotion, I dare venture to guess.
It's a real family affair, of course, with the Sebransons, because his father, Niels Sebranson, races in the 488 Challenge Championship this season as well. And Klaus is here with his family this weekend. And what a weekend for him to enjoy. So, Ben Svalent has done it then, and he is victorious in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. I want to give a big shout out to Hendrik Viol, who wins in Trofeo Pirelli Am, and to be fair, Nico, has been another stunning driver for the Scuderia Prague team, and sometimes the Scuderia Prague team are perhaps not the most prolific, but over the years, my goodness me, they've had some talented drivers. I mean, I'm going back in history and proving just how old I am. Remember Robert Purgel?
Who could forget Robert Purgel? But as you said, yeah, Scuderia Prague has been around for many, many years, but for this moment here, Trofeo Pirelli Am Champion 2024 in Europe, Klaus Sebranson.
Well done, Klaus Sebranson. You could hear the in-car telephone going, couldn't you? That was someone ringing to offer congratulations to him. Well done, Klaus. He will be utterly thrilled. As I say, Hendrik Viol has taken it to him, but Klaus Sebranson has been determined and dominant this season and richly deserves his championship. Here then, the classification for Trofeo Pirelli race 1 of the weekend. I say weekend. We're on Thursday. It's Ben Svalent and Philip Barron, P1 and P2 in the race overall. P3 in Trofeo Pirelli, Luigi Coluccio, it's P6 overall. The top 3 Am drivers, Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen, and Danilo Del Favero. Second page of the screen you can see there with Andrew Morrow and James Owen. I'm from Wales, you know. And then it's Herbert Geis and Hanno Laskowski, Angelo Fontana, Marco Zanassi, Otto Blank, David Gosner, Andreas Berg Sorensen, David Akabadze, Giacomo Altoe dropping down to P21 overall, following that time penalty. Wow, what a race, Nico.
Absolutely, what a race. And here are the drivers into Parc Fermé. There will be celebration for Ben Svalent, of course. There will be celebration for Philip Barron, Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen. But I dare say the biggest one will be for our champion in Pirelli Am. And especially his team.
I think I would agree with that. And there is Klaus Sebranson.
Well, what a race, and I think now it's kind of the moment where the focus for Klaus now will be on the celebration. But I think from this evening onwards, there is going to be a race tomorrow, but his focus, his determination will be to Sunday. Saturday for qualifying and Sunday for the race. He's not going to go underneath the podium because he didn't finish on the podium. Obviously, he goes directly into Parc Fermé, but yeah, the team will follow him. They will find him.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course. Well done to Klaus Sebranson. It has been a remarkable season. That's for sure. Well, even when the weather conditions are as they are, Nico, I think you said right at the beginning of the race, expect the unexpected. And,
delivered.
Yeah, delivered. Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. So Klaus Sebranson jumps out of the car then. And as you say, because he's not on the podium, his car is not in that podium assembly area, but the team will hunt him down. So let's celebrate the remarkable achievement of Klaus Sebranson.
The winner, Klaus Sebranson.
Well done to Klaus Sebranson. You can see him there. Let's hear from our race winner.
Ben, congratulations. What an incredible race. Tricky and tough. You defended position, but you took advantage from the crash between Giacomo and Luca. But you're feeling to be here now?
Well, it's an amazing feeling. This is the second time this season, so it's a pretty rare but an amazing feeling. It was a pretty tricky race for us. Aqua planning was really tricky. Multiple times during the race, I had to save the car from crashing into the barriers because going through rivers and bodies of water made it really tricky for us. I saw a lot of cars around me were struggling, but in the end, I'm really happy that we could finish the race off with P1. It also helps a lot. It helps a lot for us in the championship to secure the second place as well.
Thank you so much, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Ben Svalint. Good job done. That's for sure. And as he says, aquaplaning, a real issue that the drivers had to cope with, and that's not something that we can really appreciate. But of course, very much part of what the drivers had to cope with. Let's hear from Hendrik Viol, then our Scuderia Prague driver, who takes the win in Trofeo Pirelli Am.
Congratulations. A very tough race today for race 1 in this weather condition. How do you feel to be here, and can you tell us more about your strategy and how do you build the race today?
Yeah, indeed, a crazy race. It was totally wet, no visibility. It was really who dares to push more in the end. But Imola in the wet is good for us. We had a great qualifying yesterday, so we knew we are fast even in the wet. So the goal was just to win the start, stay in front, and maintain the lead and secure the win.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ciao.
Well done, Hendrik Viol. There's Tommy Lindroth. Hello, Tommy. Great to see you there. Such camaraderie in the paddock of the Ferrari Challenge. As the Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am cars were released from the safety car because they had to start behind the safety car due to really horrible weather conditions, it was Giacomo Altoe and Luca Ludwig who were getting up the road and gapping Ben Svalint significantly. Andreas Berg Sorensen was one of our Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers, and well, it was very difficult to maintain grip, and there you could see just a few moments later David Akabadze would also find himself out on the gravel as well. Now this was a decisive moment, a touch between Luca Ludwig and Giacomo Altoe. And then here comes a repeat touch from Giacomo Altoe and Luca Ludwig. P1 and P2 in the race go around and pirouette together. Now, they both managed to get the cars pointing in the right direction again. However, Luca Ludwig had sustained some significant damage, and actually it would prove to be the case also for Giacomo Altoe, who was adjudged to have been responsible. Kim Eriksson, meantime, with a high-speed slide across the grass and into the barriers. He was perfectly okay, but Kim Eriksson, one of our Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers. So it would be Hendrik Viol then doing the chasing in terms of the Pirelli Am Championship. He was doing the most he could do. He was winning the race, as too was Ben Svalint. Ben Svalint victorious for Trofeo Pirelli, and it was Hendrik Viol victorious in Pirelli Am. But Klaus Bryanson had done enough to win the championship in Pirelli Am. Here are the race statistics then. Remarkably, Nico, quite some overtakes in that. We're going to be heading up to the podium next. Of course, 2 podiums to come, one for Trofeo Pirelli and one for Trofeo Pirelli Am. That's where we go next. Michele Mambelli will be the man that's charged with bringing the drivers out onto the podium for their celebrations. Luigi Coluccio, his first podium of the season, takes P3. Philip Barron takes P2. And on the top step of the podium for the second time this year, and his fan clubber in fine voice, Ben Svalint. National anthem. So the podium will continue while some of the other Corsa Clienti programs get out on track as well. And trophies to be presented, of course, to our Trofeo Pirelli stars. Giancarlo Fisichella is called upon, the Ferrari factory driver, to make the trophy presentation, first of all, to Luigi Coluccio. Then to Philip Barron. He's got a few trophies, you know that, man.
Yep.
I'm talking about Barron. Fisichella's got quite a few trophies as well, to be fair. But, and Benz Valent, well, his podium, his trophy collection is growing,
Absolutely.
race by race.
Absolutely.
And of course, Rosso Corsa in receipt of an award as well for the Copa team trophy. Drivers will get together for the photographs. Of course, Lucio Vigani, the Pirelli Motorsport manager, makes the Pirelli trophy presentation to Benz Valent too.
And this shot just gives you an impression how dark it has become meanwhile. The weather conditions not helping, but the trophies and the drivers glow.
Yes, it's an interesting image, isn't it?
Yeah, they radiate, and there is Jen Sandman watching on.
That's just reinforcing what I was saying about the camaraderie there is amongst all the drivers.
Absolutely. So, penultimate podium here. Pirelli is done, and we'll get to Pirelli M in but a few moments.
Indeed, we will. So yes, the drivers celebrating on that podium. Here we see some super slow-mos of the cars that took their drivers to those positions. The Philip Barron car. And there, the race winner, Ferrari Budapest Rosso Corsa Benz Valent. Take a look at the Drivers' Championship then. Giacomo Altoe, well, he was champion before we even came to Imola. Benz Valent, though, P2 on 136 points. Philip Barron on 132. Nico, it's not over for P2 in the Drivers' Championship for Trofeo Pirelli by any means.
Indeed, so that's one title that will be decided tomorrow, or a position.
So still to come then. That's, you can see Philip Barron there. Jan Sandman once again. As I say, the camaraderie of our all of our drivers that support each other there on the podium. It is Danilo Del Fabro, Michael Verhagen, and Hendrik Viol on the Pirelli AM podium. So Hendrik Viol then, ready to receive his trophy. I suspect it'll be Giancarlo Fisichella again that will make the trophy presentations by torchlight. And sure enough then, the Ferrari factory driver Giancarlo Fisichella does make the trophy presentation to Danilo Del Favaro. Also to Michael Verhagen. And the race winner's trophy going the way of Hendrik Viol. And there's Ivo Horn, who is team principal of Scuderia Praha. As Lucio Vigani, the Pirelli Motorsport manager, makes the Pirelli trophy presentation to Ivo's driver, Hendrik Viol. everyone getting together for the photographs. Oh, look at the raindrops on the glasses there. As if you needed any reminder of just how wet it is here at Imola. Top three on our Trofeo Pirelli Am podium then. Danilo Del Favaro for Penske Sportwagen Hamburg takes P3. Taking P2 for Ferrari Warsaw, Michael Verhagen. And taking the win for Scuderia Prague Racing, Hendrik Viol. We'll take a look at the Drivers' Championship standings then. Klaus Sebranson with an 18-point margin over Hendrik Viol. That's enough for him to seal the championship. And Hendrik Viol is pretty steadfast in that P2 position. And there you can see the rest of the order in terms of the Trofeo Pirelli Am Drivers' Championship, with so many drivers having scored points because there have been so many drivers that have contested the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Am Drivers' Championship. Regrettably, some of those drivers not here this weekend, but they have certainly played their part in what has been a phenomenal season. So from a rain-soaked Imola then, we thank you so much for joining us for the first of our challenge races across this week and weekend. Much more racing to come, much more fun to be done. Please make sure you join Nico and myself for more of that over the course of the next few days. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.